Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 24th September 2020. The first article for discussion is Seeing Dystopia in India's Democracy. You know, India is the largest democracy in the world. We have many great democratic credentials. Is that mean democracy is serving the needs of the common man? The bigger question is what this democracy is giving to its citizens happiness, fulfillment, etc. So, if you see various indices across the world, like Human Development Index or Happiness Index, India is not performing very well, it is on the bottom. So, in this case, democracy is it able to deliver what is required to the citizens is the question posed over here. If it fails to deliver to the citizens or improve the quality of life to the citizens or build their capabilities, then we can say that democracy in India is just procedural or superficial or shell-like without substance in it. In this case, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, in his Independence Day speech, what he said, the purpose of independence and democracy is to fulfill everyone's need and also ensure justice and happiness for every man in this country. In this case, various institutions that need to be established to fulfill this particular objective. Then the question is, who has to establish these institutions? This is by the collective action of the citizens, people. The people of the country shall bring in these institutions, not just by the state. People have to own them. Let us take the example of United States of America. African American rights, women rights, everything has come into existence because of the people's movements. In India, right to information, right to work, right to food, many other rights got enlarged to the people due to the involvement of the people. In these circumstances, the institutions need to come into existence with involvement of the people to fulfill their needs. Then what shall be the role of the state? Ensuring the people to build these institutions. To build these institutions, they need capabilities and they shall not have any restraints. So, removing the restraints or limitations on the part of the people is the first job of the state. The second job of the state is, as for Amartya Sen, it is to build capabilities. What is meant by building capabilities? Making a person to do what he want to do in his life. That is what he called as functionings. Making a person to realize his functionings, that is what is the necessity to build the capabilities. How the capabilities are being built? It is through health, education, clean water, proper environment, etc. So state has to make every effort in building the capabilities. In these terms, if we see in India, education and health are not up to the mark. That's why author says that democracy in India has to become more substantive by focusing on capabilities, needs, happiness and fulfillment of the citizens. Next is weighing in on the efficacy of female leadership. Appreciation of women in leadership positions needs a mind that is free from bias, stereotypes, and prejudice. In this context, Germany, Switzerland, these countries are remarkable in their progress against COVID 19. What is common among them? All these are driven by women leadership. Similarly, in United States of America, a study was conducted where the states governed by the women have lesser cases, lesser deaths, and better COVID 19 management. Does it send a lesson to all of us? That is, women are better leaders if we are able to appreciate that. In these circumstances, giving them voting rights and also reservations in Panchayati Raj in India have made them effective. The priorities of the women are more towards sanitation, drinking water, ensuring education to children, better nutrition. All these developmental goals they are well achieved. And in the case of state legislature and central legislature, no representation, no effective representation of women exists. They are even less than 14%, if I am not wrong. In these circumstances, ensuring greater representation of women in these institutions can ensure the effective functioning. Second part, women reservation bill has its own problems to get passed through parliament. What author suggests is the political parties can come to an internal agreement to allocate one third of the seats to women. This makes their representation effective. Slowly, the societies will be able to pursue the utility of women representation and gender relations will start changing in the society. This is what we have to understand. Next is a light touch. Recently, government is talking about regulation of web-based digital media. As of now, regulation on electronic media and print media itself is ineffective. Government wants to regulate the digital media. Here, we need to handle this with a kid's glove. It shall not appear as censorship. At the same time, it shall be able to restrict hate speech in the web. In this case, government wants to change IT rules 2011 to make intermediaries more responsible and accountable. Who are the intermediaries? The platforms which are delivering the news. For example, Google, YouTube, Facebook, these are the intermediaries. So here we need to keep in certain points. Rules will not become effective unless they are implemented. The bigger problem in India is the selective interpretation of the rules to the advantage of the party in power. Second, regulation of internet without throttling and that fine balance is very important. If not, that may lead to government censorship of the web. That is too dangerous. Unlocking campuses. You know that from September 21 schools are getting opened. At the same time, we also have certain universities getting opened. So here we have to be careful to protect these people. And again understand, as they are young, they may not get worst infected, but they can become the carriers of that infection to the elderly at the home. That's why tracking, isolation, treatment, testing, these goals shall not be forgotten before opening the campuses. The people of nowhere, this is about stateless citizens. Let me say, the people who are excluded from National Citizen Register of Citizens in Assam, or Rohingyas in Myanmar, or the Muslims living in tea gardens in Sri Lanka, Muslim Tamilians, all these people are not recognized as the citizens by their respective countries. In case of Assam, these people who are not been approved as the citizens of this country are being sent to detaining centers and they have to wait till their country of origin accepts them. So see, every human born on this earth is said to have certain rights which we called as human rights. The bigger question is, these people who do not have a state to own them up, do they not have human rights? So human rights in India or across the world are becoming subjected to a citizen or a citizenship. So the human rights are universal irrespective of a person's participation in a political community or belonging to a particular country or a state. So that's why a human rights issues statelessness comes the first. That is what article says. CAG, Rafale vendors yet to confirm tech transfer. Understand this. As per offset rules of India, offset policy of India, if a contract is greater than 300 crore rupees, 30% of that money has to be reinvested in India. It has to be used to develop military industrial complex in India. In the case of Rafale deal, it is 50%. The offset amount is 50%. Dassault Aviation and other companies of the France which are supplying the Rafale aircrafts to us, jets to us, they haven't invested even a penny in India as of now. Many of these, to get the contracts, they are agreeing to these offset norms, but once the contract they got, they are not fulfilling the offset norms. That's what is the CAG says here. Next, government's intent and success in terms of delivering has to be taken on board. This is about farm bills. Here, the Minister Shekhawat, what he says is this: farm bills are meant to eliminate the middleman, money lender, and to provide for greater price to the farm's produce. In this case, the vicious cycle in which a farmer is stuck, it need to be removed by opening him up to various markets across the world that can lead to better price realization. So he can sell his product across the mandis across the nation. That is the ultimate purpose. Labor bills passed. What are the labor bills passed? One is related to occupational safety, the other is industrial relations, third is social security code. What is the major opposition to it? Previously, a company has 100 employees, it need not have pre-approval to remove these employees. Now this is raised to 300. It means a company with up to 300 employees can hire and fire at will. Second thing is, any trade union, if it has to go on strike, it has to give 1 month notice. The government says it helps to bring in negotiations between the workers and the management. And finally, remember, 50 crore workers of the organized and unorganized sector in India is expected to get the social security benefits, which is a positive thing of these bills. 40% toilets in government schools non-existent, unused, CAG. You know that lack of toilet is an important factor in sending girl children to school after puberty. In these circumstances, government took an effective policy towards building millions of toilets across India under Swachh Bharat. This also includes building lakhs of toilets in government schools. As per the CAG report, 1.4 lakh toilets which are constructed either unused or partly used or non-existent altogether. This is what we need to know. G4 seeks time-bound reform of Security Council. What is this G4? India, Brazil, Japan, Germany. They put together, they are called G4. India wants UN to initiate negotiations on its reform. It says text-based, time-bound negotiations. India also wants to have reformed multilateralism, and it wants to have greater representation for Africa, both among permanent and non-permanent members of UN Security Council. Next is China vows to go carbon neutral by 2060. The issue here is carbon dioxide emissions peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. This is what Xi Jinping is talking at UN. So he wants to expose United States of America, which moved away from Paris climate change and which is not ready to take any commitments with regard to carbon reductions. Center retained 1.1 lakh crore of cess receipts. You know, cess and surcharge are not part of the shareable pool of taxes. But government has to use that money only for the intended purpose. The end use is clearly specified for that money. In this case, the center has to transfer the money received on cess to a specified designated reserve fund. From there, it will go to the intended purpose. So many a times, government is not creating a designated reserve fund to transfer the cess amounts. And even if it is created, government has not transferred to the amount 1.1 lakh crore rupees. MSMEs, startups not for non-personal data policy. So you know that Gopalakrishnan committee was appointed to report on non-personal data policy. In this case, startups and MSME says that this data policy will help the larger corporates, not them, and they are not interested to develop their data. These are the articles for today. This is Dr. Rambabu signing off for Law Excellence IAS.